mean, you contrast the Russian warfare against Ukraine, say, with the Israeli and American warfare against Iran. And you see really how restrained the Russian warfare has been. And for the most part, too, the Ukrainians as well. The Ukrainians have not attacked. The Ukrainians have been willing to do more sabotage. They've been willing to assassinate, Russian generals using car bombs. They've killed Russian civilians that way. But the Ukrainians, they did at one time try and strike the Kremlin with a drone a few years ago, and they did launch that attack on Valdai, Russia, the Russian president's, second home or whatever. But you've not seen the sustained campaigns against civilian or targets, government targets, infrastructure, as you have had, like with the American and Israeli wars. I think that's the fear that everyone has here, is that that's where this would go. That if the Victory Day celebrations have been attacked, it would have led to a Russian escalation from which it would have been very difficult to back down from. But that war is a war that I think the Russians have walked away from negotiations at this point. The comments from Vladimir Putin following the Victory Day celebration, particularly his comments towards the Americans and how he just doesn't really see an American role anymore in the war in terms of mediating, in terms of negotiating. I think the Russian plan is to seize the rest of Donbass, so finish their conquest of Donetsk, Luhansk, and then the other two provinces, Zaporizhia and Kherson, they've more or less reached the farthest point of their advance. A lot of that's just basically along the river that runs there, and then settle down and establish that as their territory. They're actually going to hold things there this year in those conquered territories. So I think the Russians, because the Russians have a lot of pressure building on them, not that does come from the economic warfare against them, that comes from the sanctions, but more so comes from the reality of running a wartime economy.
Yes.
And the reality of putting all your money into a war and not into your society. And after several years, that really starts to weaken your population. That it starts, right? The choices that the Russians are having to make consistently now in terms of allocation of war or society is really starting to show.